yesterday it was Morris the cat who was here. Tomorrow, the studio is going to be knee-deep in cats and dogs for the Pet Telethon. Today, it's one of nature's most elusive and most beautiful creatures, the Bengal tiger. My guest, a man who spent 2 years atop an elephant filming Bengal tigers. And also joining us, a local animal wrangler. If a movie filming in town needs a four-legged actor, chances are they'll call Tom Wilson for help. All that and rampaging beavers in Washington, D.C., and you've got just another Cullen on cable. I'm still practicing my staring into the camera and not flinching. How do I do? Look, watch. You know, there comes a point when something like that happens in live television where the less seasoned professionals flinch. I'm serious. They sort of like look down. I think I maintained eye contact. Did I not? I wanted to look like maybe the whole screen had been frozen. I was trying not even to blink. Meanwhile, in my head, this is what's going on. Why don't they get off me? Why don't they get off me? Where are these idiots? What's going on? Oh, excuse me. Spring allergies. Live television. It's living dangerously. I love it. Oh, and with the animals we've got going here all this week, one never knows what's going to happen. I wonder what Bob Hager, you know that name? That's he's been around NBC News for a long time. I wonder what he thought when he came in to work bright and early this morning and they said, Bob, you got the beaver story. Now, if I were Bob, I would be thrilled to get the beaver story because the beaver story is just a little bit different than your average run-of-the-mill covering the nation's capital story. It lends itself to the potential for all kinds of frivolity, and in fact, the media, hungry for some comic relief, given what the headlines have been for the last, I suppose, few centuries. It's front page all over the place. I just happened to note USA Today. The beavers made the front page. Are you aware of this? There's a Beavers, Tribune Review, beavers everywhere. And Bob Hager got he drew the beaver straw on NBC Today. You know the story, don't you? It has to do with the tidal basin in Washington, D.C. and the cherry trees abloom. Quickly, I'm not going any further until somebody tells me what the news trivia significance of tidal basin is when it comes to Washington politics, covering Washington. Those of you who've been news junkies for a few decades or so are going to know the answer. I want somebody to show off. 333 PCNC. Tidal basin. What other outlandish story had not to do with little rampaging animals with buck teeth, but instead had to do with a congressman? Tidal basin. Ladies and gentlemen, come on. I'll be stunned if somebody doesn't call and get this. I'll be more than stunned. I'll be disappointed. I'll be a monkey's uncle. You don't remember tidal basin? It's the first time I ever heard the term. And I can't, frankly, this just popped into my head. I can't remember when it happened, but come on. Nobody out there knows? Oh, jeez. Well, then I'm going to come out as opposed to democracy. Because the only way democracy works is for a citizenry to be relatively well-educated, well-informed, and paying attention. You guys aren't. So what do I want you voting for my leaders for? Come on, tidal basin. No? Well, I'm not telling you. Forget it. Ha! Ha! Walter, put us out of our misery. Tidal basin. Walter.
Yes. I'm not real familiar with tidal basin, but with all the politics that keep going on. down there in Washington, and with the different scandals and everything, I think it has a little two-sided meaning to everything.
Wrong.
Okay. Well, I was just trying to get in talk there. So.
I appreciate it. Wait, Walter, we give you credit for guessing. All right, Ethan maybe knows.
I think I do know, Lynn.
Go ahead.
Congressman Wilbur Mills, and I think her name was Fanny Fox, some burlesque queen or whatever, and they were arrested frolicking drunkenly in the tidal basin by the, I guess it would have been the National Park Police or somebody.
Right. You've got the same memory I have. Wilbur Mills, then very powerful head of the House Ways and Means Committee.
I knew it was some powerful committee. I wasn't sure if it was appropriations or...
I think it's House Ways and Means. I mean, you didn't get
right.
more powerful than Wilbur Mills.
And I think her name was Fanny Fox.
Fanny Fox, with an E on Fanny.
Right.
Drunk as a skunk, Wilbur, and frolicking in the tidal basin with this stripper.
Well, there's not two places to skinny dip in the heart of downtown Washington. So the tidal basin is as good a place as any.
I love it. And Ethan, I thank you.
Great to hear your voice again, Lynn.
Goodbye. Goodbye. Okay, my faith in the intelligence and attentiveness of my audience has been renewed. Yeah, tidal basin. A lot of great stories come out of the tidal basin. Imagine the head of it'd be as if, you know, today, who's the head of the House? Who knows anymore? I can't keep track of the players anymall. But it's as if a major Washington figure was caught with a stripper frolicking drunkenly in the tidal basin. That'd be a big story today, too, and it was a big one then. Just goes to show you, back then there were sort of, you know, sex stories and outrage. It really cost him. Then a few days later, he was pictured backstage. Wilbur, he didn't learn his lesson, at the burlesque house where Fanny was doing her thing, and he was drunk again. So, I mean, he really, it's the beginning of the end for that poor guy. Anyway, the beavers. Oh, I'm sorry. You know the story, right? There's rampage beavers, and well, here, let's... Bob Hager got the story. So can we do this real fast? We call this back talk. Okay, come here.
Underneath the waters of the tidal basin, a boy beaver and a girl beaver. The biologists tell us it is spring here in Washington, and the cherry blossoms are out. But just look what they've been up to. Look here. This is what used to be a cherry tree. That's a stump.
I love that. I love this story. You can tell Bob loves the story too. You've seen Bob Hager. He's not like a major performer for the network, but he's been there forever. You haven't seen him so animated and running around like this because it's a different kind of story. Reporters love these kinds of stories. Now, you have a chopped down cherry tree there in Washington, D.C. Okay, does anyone give me the historical significance of chopped down cherry trees in Washington, D.C.? This is an easier question than tidal basin. Come on, 333 PCNC. I'll put you right on if you can answer. Chopped down cherry trees, Washington, D.C., what do you think of?
And bear with me now, this takes a little time, but there are 5 trees around here that have been damaged by the beavers. This one is the easiest to see, but look there where their teeth have been chomping away at this tree.
I'll tell you.
And now, let's take...
You know, what's the world coming to? You got these beavers out there, and what do they think? These trees are there for them? These trees are there for us. We're supposed to be enjoying the beauteous blooms, and here you have rampaging beavers in D.C., and, you know, the park police there are not, they're not cracking jokes about it. They've got these stern faces. Well, it's sad. But anyway, look at Bob. He's running from tree to tree. I've never seen him move.
Look at some of the rest of the damage.
Oh, no, here. This sort of happens to him what happened to me at the beginning of the show. Watch this. You know, at the beginning of the show, I said, it's Cullen on cable. A long, long, painful time from my perspective. It only lasts about 2 seconds for him, but you can already tell he's thinking, I'm crouched down, I'm holding this thing up, I'm not in a comfortable position, I probably look like a fool, get this camera off me. Now watch how long it lasts. You can tell he gets uncomfortable. I'll back it up a little bit. There we go.
And now, let's take a look at some of the rest of the damage.
1, 2. It's only 2 seconds, but I could see him start to flinch, believe me. Been there, done that. Well, come on, cherry trees chop down D.C., Washington, D.C. I cannot tell a lie. George Washington chopping down cherry trees, you know? Jeez. Okay, well, I'm taking a break. Watch the camera stay on me now for an unpleasantly long time. Or just to annoy me, they'll get off me now because I said watch the camera stay on me for an uncomfortably long time. I'll be back.
Cullen on Cable is sponsored in part by McCardle Surgical. Access your world.
Well, hello. Welcome back. I just have this bizarre feeling that this hour is going to be long for me. For me, that's all. I just want you to know that. Our animal wrangler is not has not been wrangled up as far as we're concerned. He's not around? No? Okay, so it's you and me. Hey, I got a subject I really would like to... now, come on, don't be shy. This is interactive. It's like talk radio. It's just that you don't have to look at me. Turn your back to the TV and pretend it's the radio. 333-PCNC is the phone number. There's this effort on the part of some members of the City Council. In fact, I don't think there's a member of City Council who's opposed to it, to when PNC Park opens finally in the year 2001, that the concessions will be selling not just the usual boring fare of hot dogs, peanuts, and that kind of stuff, but instead there will be a real Pittsburgh flavor to the joint. And so I think it's Councilman Gene Riccardi who started it, who said, you know, there ought to be Pittsburgh products. I mean, we're customizing this for Pittsburgh. We, the people, are footing the bill in large part because tax dollars are going into this. Why not ensure that it has literally a Pittsburgh flavor? And he pointed out, for instance, that they were, I guess, planning on selling Coors beer. Huh? I mean, that's out of Denver, Colorado. We've got Iron City here. I cannot believe it wouldn't be Iron City beer at Three Rivers. So, and then who is it? Michael Diven, another councilman, comes up and says that Amel's Restaurant of Baldwin Township should have one of the concessions and should be able to stock the food for us. But I'm thinking this could really start a serious food fight. Because if you were to be able to choose local eateries to be and provide concessions, to serve you while you're at PNC Park, who would it be? Now, if you've been to Three Rivers in the last few years, you know that Primanti Brothers got a foot in the door there. You can get a Primanti Brothers sandwich, but there's only, as far as I know, one location at the whole stadium where you can do that. Also, Bankovitz Seafood from the Strip District also has a little place there where you can get a good old Bankovitz fish sandwich. But other than that, I'm not so sure of any local folks who've gotten their foot in the door. Who would you put? I mean, I can't see anybody arguing with this. It seems like a good idea. Should PNC Park have, I don't know, eating pierogies at a baseball game? I suppose anything. But I mean, it should be local fare. There's no doubt about it. So who would you pick? And maybe there is a way to put this to some kind of referendum so that the fans can decide. Actually, the people who go should be the ones who decide, I would think. Jackie, you're going to PNC Park. What do you want to eat? What do you want to eat?
Well, the Primanti sandwiches are good, but I'm like the last time I was at the ballpark, I couldn't even afford a hot dog. I mean, the prices are astronomical.
Yeah, it's outrageous.
And to take a family of four, you need a couple $100 in your pocket just to get in the door and sit down and have something to eat. I think they're building this new stadium. They're putting more seats in there so they can bring in more revenue. But I think they need to cut some of the prices so that a lower-income family can afford to take in the entertainment.
Oh, boy. Darling, get with the program. That ain't going to happen.
I realize that's not going to happen, but there's going to be a lot of people that are not going to frequent that ballpark because of the fact that they can't afford it.
Well, then maybe what they should do is they should have, you know, like, I don't know, Ruth's Chris Steakhouse do the concessions, because they'll be eating filet mignons, the people who can afford to go there, right? Lobster tail, filet mignon, you know, liver pate, caviar. How's that?
You're talking millionaires.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking. Because they can.
Millionaires don't go to the ball game that often.
Well, but the corporations own a lot of those seats, those big, you know, they're putting in the fancier, schmancier seats.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate your point of view. You guys don't want to play today, do you? You don't want to play with me. Well, okay, here's another possibility. Because the point the caller brings up is a good one. The prices for food at the ballpark are unbelievable. They're ridiculous, as a matter of fact. So if you really wanted to make an interesting ballpark, you know, because ballparks now have strange amenities. I think there's hot tubs in one, is it in Phoenix? I don't know. They've got, you know, they probably have places you can plug in your computer. Here's what we do. We have little individually sized microwave ovens. Maybe one for every 4 seats, okay? And this way you can hold down the cost, because we can all bring our own stuff. You can bring leftovers, you can bring in all kinds of stuff, and you can cook your own food. Who needs concession? We can cook our own food, right? That's what we'll do. The problem is, of course, with ideas like this, is they're doing serious, you know, strip searches at a lot of these new parks when people come in, ensuring that they're not smuggling in even so much as a candy bar, because they don't want you to be able to bring food in or take food in. I never got bring and take right. Whatever. They don't want you carrying the stuff in because they want to be able to gouge you for it. There is one park I read about, a new one, where people bringing their own water in were told to pour it out. You cannot bring water in. And in fact, some of the new parks have taken water fountains and ditched them. There's like 1 or 2 in the entire park. Why? Because they're selling water. They're selling bottled water. Oh, brother. My gosh, someone's actually calling. Great. We'll talk to you in just a minute. 333-PCNC. You can figure it out. I really don't know what the numerical equivalent is of that. But you can figure it out. I'll be back.
The official transportation provider of Cullen on Cable is Pittsburgh Limousine, the one clear choice in transportation.
All right, we're trying to figure out if we ruled the world, if we ruled PNC Park, what kind of food we want served there. The idea being that a number of members of the Pittsburgh City Council have suggested rather strongly that local restaurants, local caterers, local concessionaires should really be the ones that are providing a very unique Pittsburgh flavor at the park. And I think that's a great idea. Steve, what kind of food you going to be eating at PNC Park?
Well, I think since Pittsburgh, they want to get Pittsburgh foods in there, I think something like maybe like barbecue chipped ham sandwiches or something would be cheap and economical you could have there.
That's right. That'd be good. And you can't get a barbecued chipped ham there now, can you?
No, I don't think so. And that's, you know, pretty much a Pittsburgh thing there, so...
That's right.
I thought that'd be a good idea, and I'd like to put my 2 cents. I work for a place called Mancini's.
Okay.
Which uses Mancini's bread, and I think that'd be a great place to have there.
Okay, thank you.
My 2 cents.
Okay, your 2 cents is worth as much as my 2 cents. Jim, hi.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi.
Lynn, as you notice that the county airport, or, you know, new Greater Pittsburgh Airport,
right,
they were only allowed to charge a certain percentage above what the prices were in the outlying districts. You know, like if you went to a hot dog place, well, they were only allowed to charge so much above that. That should be number one. Number two, I don't believe that we should be letting the owners of ball teams put restaurants in there because they collect the rent. What the URA should do is set up a little mall. Now, if Permanis or Mancini's or want to put a little store in, then they should get the same type of deal for renting the property and build up these shops outside. because everything that goes into that stadium, the money, the rental, everything goes to the owners.
Well, and that's the whole idea, as you know, of building these new parks. They're revenue generators.
Well, do you recall when they wanted to get casino gambling? They said you're not allowed to serve food, you're not allowed to serve drinks because you'll take away from the existing businesses on the outside.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what they're doing. They're divorcing themselves from the rest of the city, and the ball team owners are going to have all that property, hundreds of acres down there, all to their own pocketbooks.
Okay.
Thank you.
The anti-stadium crowd's coming out on this one. Larry, hi.
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
I think a day at the ballpark could be made perfect if you sit down, you have a kibasi from Max's Allegheny Tavern,
Okay.
and you wash it down with a can of Cherokee Red, and if that doesn't do it, why, then you go and get you an Isley's ice cream cone. So that could just top off a beautiful day at the park.
There's Pittsburgh. That's good.
The anti-ballpark people, just a quick comment. Keep in mind that if the Steelers and the Pirates left on just an entertainment tax alone, they'd be taking approximately $20 million with them. Where would that money come if these anti-progress people had allowed them to leave? Then I'll just leave the phone open for you.
Okay. I'm going to let that hang there in the air, too, assuming that is a rhetorical question, actually a statement posed as a question. Larry, that's correct, isn't it? Hi, Marge. How you doing? What you going to eat at PNC Park?
Oh, I'm big and fat, and I eat practically anything.
You'll eat at
me, too.
too.
I don't go to the ball games.
Okay.
And they're already starting, they started a road down by my house to get to Pittsburgh real fast. And I call it the road to hell, because who wants to go there anyhow?
Well, excuse me.
And get their car hijacked or maybe get shot.
Marge, wait a minute. Stop. Whoa. Where do you live?
Oh, I'm not going to tell you because I don't want these people that are from there to come after me. And then I know that you really and truthfully you adore Clinton. Well, he's right now bombing people that he shouldn't be bombing. And that goofy madam, whatever her name is, Albright, nobody would talk to her. Who'd want to talk to her? Those men laugh at her over there. They actually laugh at her. She started the bombing, and Clinton started the bombing, and today's their Easter, and they're never going to let our boys loose.
Marge,
they're never going to let our boys, and that's the most important thing to me.
Are you normally so happy-go-lucky, so optimistic, and
2 boys in Vietnam, one twice, thinking that he was going to help the South Vietnamese.
Yeah.
But our rotten government screwed up our boys over there, and then the people over here marching around all over the place, and they didn't even give these boys any credit. And these boys fought, too, over there. Now, you got these 3 young boys over there. That's really what's getting me. That's getting me down. They're stuck over there. They might kill those boys because of this goofy Clinton, who I know, don't say nothing about Clinton because you think he's #1. And then you got this goofy Madam Albright and Clinton's wife who wants to go against Giuliani. And Giuliani's a fine man. He's a fine man. And she couldn't even compare to Margaret Thatcher or Leah Rabin from Israel.
No.
You don't have any women in America that could even handle anything like Thatcher could handle.
No, there's not an American woman, not one of them.
No.
Nah.
Not one.
Not one.
Especially
Madam
Albright.
That's right.
Because those men, she sits down at the table with those men.
Yeah.
They're not going to listen to her.
She doesn't even have good legs.
They laugh at her.
That's right. Maggie Thatcher at least had good-looking legs.
It isn't her legs. It isn't her look.
No.
It's her attitude.
Right.
She thinks and Clinton, he thinks that he's an emperor. He's got delusions of power. And he's going to bring us into a nice nuclear war because Russia's going to mess around.
Yeah.
And you'll sit there and look like that and make faces. But when they drop a little atomic bomb on top of your head, why, then you'll know. And then he messes around with the Chinese. The Chinese are very smart people. They were smart before we were ever smart.
That's right. You're absolutely
Very
right.
smart. And
Right.
you think that they're going to listen to Clinton ramming his democracy down their throats?
Nah.
They have their own governments. You cannot ram democracy down these people's throats.
No.
Look what they did in the Balkans. They messed up all those countries because we had to go over there and play our little game with democracy. Now they're all fighting over there.
I'm waving a white. I'm surrendering. I'm surrendering. Thank you, Marge.
Yeah.
Have a nice day. Have a nice day. Now, there's a woman who knows how to enjoy life. There's a woman who has a great deal of compassion and intelligence, I can tell. There's a woman who thinks these things out clearly. There's a woman who won't tell me where she lives because she doesn't want the likes of me coming out and, what was I going to do to her? Hijack her car? I don't want your stupid car, Marge. I don't want your car. I got my own stupid car. Okay? Anyway, we have that, caller ID. We know exactly where you live, babe. I think I'll be back. If I get smart, I won't, but I might be. Do you recall, if you've been with me since the beginning of this show, do you recall that I said I had this, it's just call it women's intuition, I had this suspicion that this was going to be a strange hour. And I have no idea what's happening. Our guest stood us up. I'm stood up until the guy who spent 2 years on top of an elephant filming Bengal tigers stops by, but he's via satellite. I saw him on the Today Show this morning, so he's doing these things at arm's length. And frankly, I would tell anybody to do this show at arm's length today. This is one of the joys of live television, the spontaneity, the never know what's going to happen next aspect to it. Well, yesterday, I'm going to open the phone lines. You got something to talk about, feel free. 333-PCNC until we get to our Siberian tiger segment. Yesterday on this show, sitting right here, and man, did he shed, Morris the cat. This is Morris the Third. There have been three. You would think there'd be more, because the Morris spots for 9 Live started up in 1968. So over 30 years, there have only been 3 Morris the Cats, and this guy yesterday was, he's just classic. Anyway, he was making the rounds yesterday. After he was on this show, he went over to the big radio station in town and did one of their talk shows, and then he was making appearances at Giant Eagles because Giant Eagle is one of the major sponsors of the Pet Telethon, airing here tomorrow. And Morris has really come in specifically for that. Anyway, so he also got his picture in today's Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. It's you're not going to be able to see it, but here's his picture here. He's sitting on, his director's chair. And the reporter writing it said this, and I read this, and I took issue, as the British would say. Do the British say issue? They say tissue. I would take issue with it. Because she says, this is the reporter Linda Wilson Fuoco, like many celebrities, Morris is bigger than he appears on TV. What does she mean by that? She's got it absolutely backwards. The thing about TV is you look bigger on TV, not often, on TV. When people invariably, and I know some of you who have seen me out there in the real world, one of the first things you say when you see somebody live who you've seen on TV is, what? Why? You're so much thinner. You're so much smaller than I thought you were. So the reporter here has it absolutely turned around. Television makes you look bigger, not smaller, unless she's thinking that, when you're on TV, because the television is just this big, that you look this big and then you turn out to be a real human being, but I don't think she's thinking that. So she got it wrong. Morris is bigger than he appears on TV, she says, which is odd that she would say that. Those of us who work on television invariably hear, well, my gosh, you are younger than I thought you. What? You are thinner than I thought. What? You are prettier than I thought. And you hear this over and over again. I once sat around with a bunch of women who are on television who hear this all the time. And whenever we hear it, we don't know whether to say thank you very much or well, so's your old man, because it sounds sort of like an insult. It's a compliment that makes you uptight, because what they're really saying is, oh, well, my gosh, you're not old, fat, and ugly. I thought you were. So you sort of never quite know how to take it. But the adage is that television adds 15 pounds to you, on you. And so invariably when you see somebody live who you've only seen on television, they look thinner, smaller. And it's very hard to gauge height on television. Like, I mean, you can't really tell. We got these chairs on TV. TV always, let me show you something. TV always has chairs like this. So we look a certain way. And then if the guest comes in, if the guest had not stood me up and the guest came in, we would make sure our chairs were so that we look even. Now, sometimes I have to. Oh, it's not working today. Nothing's working today. Sometimes I have to get way down here when we have a short guest. And then if we have a tall guest, we have to go up like this. Invariably, with anchor people, men and women, little things can start happening where if the woman sits down and raises her chair up, the guy will immediately raise his up. Then she'll look and raise hers up, and before you know it, they're practically sitting on top of the table. And you may note from now on how high above anchor desks anchors tend to sit. Now, when you sit at a table, usually it hits your waist high, right? Anchors often are sitting like this, and I've noticed Matt and Katie do. So they sit unnaturally high, and I'm convinced what it is it's this dueling raising of chairs where somebody does not want to appear to be somehow less substantial than their cohort. Been there, done that, seen it. Do we have a gun off? I'd like to shoot myself. I'm aging before your eyes. Actually, if you saw me in person, I'd be much younger than you think. And actually, I'm blonde. Did you know that? I'm blonde and beautiful, rather buxom, very curvaceous, and about 26. Why you might not recognize me. Give me a break. Give me a call. Help me out. I'm a desperate woman. My God, where's Dudley Do-Right when you need him? Chivalry dead? Gentlemen. Who's on the line? Jimmy. Don't know who he is, but Jimmy, I love you. Stay right there. Here's what we're gonna do. We've got some calls here. Jimmy, who was on the line, has, in keeping with the general tone of today's show, after I thanked him for being there and told him I'd be talking to him momentarily, he hung up. So we're just gonna go to the callers. Whatever they want to talk about, I'll tell you. Beggars can't be choosers. I'm game. Bill, hi, how you doing? You're first in. What do you want to talk about?
Are you Madam Collins?
Madam Collins.
Related to Madam Albright?
Oh, yes. Madam Albright and Madam Collins, and, yeah, and Leah Rabin or something. Rabid Leah of Israel.
Anyways, you look fine to me, but that's beside the point. I came home last night and I turned on your channel and I saw this debate between the two women senators about the school voucher program.
I didn't see it, so I'm at a disadvantage here, but go ahead.
Well, anyway,
what are you feeling?
It's my, first of all, let me say I'm unalterably opposed to using my money to fund any more parochial schools or any schools that are religiously oriented. But if indeed we have to, if we're going to be giving money to to certain groups of and I think what they're setting up is the idea that you get $1,400 if you fit within a certain range in society to go to a specific school.
Yeah, yeah.
And now, if we're going to be giving money to, say, a group that makes less than $10,000, we should give it to everyone in that group, not just those who want to transfer schools. That way they could use their money to go to the public schools or to whatever school they choose to send their children to. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I have to tell you, I mean, heaven knows it's a complex and emotionally charged issue, but I stand on the same side of the argument as you do. I am absolutely opposed to it. I think it would be the dismantling of public education, which has been the great democratizer in this country, and public education has served us very well. It doesn't help public education to bleed students and funding away from it. Those who argue cynically that all of this will actually make public education better should stop insulting our intelligence in that way. This is a bailout for for private schools.
That was the argument of my favorite state senator from the northern part of Allegheny County. But as I say, if they're going to be giving money to people in a certain group, they should give it to every family in that group to do with that money as they choose to do it.
Right. Well, see, what you're getting at is, let's say you have a troubled public school, and let's say even half, which would be a huge number, of the children in that troubled school, that their parents qualify and get these vouchers, and those kids are pulled out of that school. Then you have 50% of that student population still in that school. That's an abandonment of those 50%, and that's insane.
Well, the families of those children should also get $1,400, which they can apply to the public school.
If you have schools that aren't doing the job, you fix the schools. You do not take money and resources from them. I know you agree with me.
Yeah.
And the fact is, polls have been done recently which show that the majority of Pennsylvanians agree with you as well. And so Governor Ridge is on real thin ice here. Thank you. Appreciate it. It's a pleasure talking to an articulate human being instead of myself. We're going to be back with a cinematographer who, as I said, spent 2 years atop an elephant shooting a Bengal tiger. I mean, photographing. I don't want to get the wrong impression here. National Geographic special on NBC tomorrow night. You will see the results of his 2 years atop that elephant. Stay with us. A treat in store for us all tomorrow night on NBC, Channel 11 here, WPXI. It will be a new National Geographic television special about the Bengal tiger, one of the most efficient predators in the world, certainly one of the most beautiful, gloriously beautiful animals in the world. And joining me now is a gentleman who spent 2 years following these Bengal tigers, Hugh Miles. He is a wildlife cinematographer par excellence, judged to be one of the best in the business. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi. Tell us about this particular 2-year assignment that you had.
Well, it was a wonderful experience and a great privilege to be able to film such a beautiful animal over such a long period, and to be able to follow the intimate detail of this mother that we chose to film, called Lakshmi, and her 3 cubs. And we like to think that making the film will actually help in their conservation.
And how endangered, you talk about the conservation of an animal like this, how endangered is this Bengal tiger?
I think they're in serious strife. The numbers are so low now that I think the populations generally are confined to these wonderful reserves like Kanha, where we made this film. And I think in time, if the numbers are found to be as low as we suspect they are, then you begin to get problems with lack of genetic diversity and so in the population. So I think they're in trouble.
So as you said, you followed a specific tiger, a tigress, a mother with her three cubs. Is it unusual for a tigress to have 3 cubs?
No, that's fairly usual. This particular tigress was born in...
These wonderful National Geographic specials, it seems invariably there's a kind of a dramatic sense to the story as we watch it. What is the drama in this story as it unfolds tomorrow night?
Well, I think it was a surprise that we found. We didn't know what would happen in her life raising these cubs, and it was the fact that poachers aren't the biggest threat to tigers, but other tigers. And in fact, Lakshmi, over the period we filmed, was very badly injured 4 times defending her cubs from male tigers that wanted to take over the territory, and obviously because he wasn't the dad of the cubs, try and kill them.
Well, what about, what one would think she would have a male that would be protecting her?
Yes, certainly this was the case, and for about a year everything was hunky-dory in the territory because the male was defending that territory, but in the end the male was killed by this other male, and then there was a lot of upset amongst the tiger population.
So this is a surprise, one would think, and obviously the fact that these beautiful animals are endangered is a result, usually, of mankind's encroaching on their territory, and yet you say the danger here is from her own kind.
Yes, I think our belief is that man's poaching is the biggest threat to tigers, and certainly is a big threat, but in reality, and that was our surprise, is that it is other tigers that are such a big threat to...
Now, you filmed this from the back of an elephant? How does one go about doing that?
With difficulty. It's, we used, we'd go out early every morning, we'd use a 10-foot, 12-foot tripod or so from the back of the elephant and set that up, and then we'd be attached to the camera so we could lean off the elephant and film whatever happened. And it's a wonderful creature to follow tigers in because it can go anywhere. But of course it's not very good at standing still, so that gave us all sorts of problems.
I was going to ask, you must have had a very patient and complacent elephant if you're filming, but he didn't necessarily stand still.
No, we did have problems on occasion. Certainly they seldom stood still, but on 1 or 2 occasions the elephant lost its nerve, and actually when the tigress charged prey, the elephant would lose its nerve and run off, and then we'd be attached to 100 pounds of camera and tripod and falling off the elephant and so on, so it was all pretty scary, really.
Here I am laughing about it, and you're thinking you're a dead man. Did she know, I mean, did she know that there was somebody tailing her all the time? How much was the tigress, do you think, aware of your presence?
Oh, she was always aware of our presence because we had to be fairly close, but we were very careful to keep our distance, to not disturb her, but she was very confident with elephants. She'd grown up with elephants in the park because they guard her against poachers, and she was very confident. She was never frightened by our presence just because we were very careful not to disturb her.
So it's a thin line you walk as a wildlife cinematographer. I mean, you're there, but you don't want to in any way encroach upon what naturally would be happening.
No, absolutely not. You can't interfere because nature is how it is, and you need the natural behavior to happen so they can live their lives successfully and raise their cubs. So we had to be very careful, for instance, if she was hunting, that we didn't actually disturb the prey, so she could then feed her cubs.
Does this have a happy ending? You say that she ends up having to do battle because the other male is killed. It sounds like it might be a tragedy tomorrow night.
Well, it was extremely sad at one stage because she limped off with the cubs into the jungle, and we didn't see her for 10 months. We assumed she was dead. But then just before the film finished, she returned to her birthplace again, and we were obviously delighted, and we were very pleased to be able to show the audience a happy ending.
Oh, how wonderful. Thank you. But so for 10 months you had to sit and wait, wondering what had happened.
Well, we went frantic searching for her and all over the place, and we had to assume she was dead. One of the little cubs did show up, and that was a wonderful twist of fate, that one of the female cubs was actually adopted by one of Lakshmi's previous daughters.
Wow. Hugh Miles, thank you for what you have wrought, and we will look forward to enjoying it tomorrow night. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hugh Miles, wildlife cinematographer, and his work with the Bengal tigers seen tomorrow on the new National Geographic television special, Tigers of Kanha. That's on Channel 11 at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. next week. Actor, director, former Meathead Rob Reiner joins us, and also wonderful Academy Award-winning actor Billy Bob Thornton. He next Friday. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. Tune in the Pet Telethon tomorrow on WPXI and also on PCNC tomorrow afternoon. Have a good weekend.